Well, hello. It is 7 o'clock on the dot, and welcome out to the Board of Appeals scheduled meeting, which is initially going to be a hearing with respect to a 40B application. Now, this is being recorded. It's on Zoom, and I would like board members in attendance to identify themselves, please. Nancy?
Nadir Ahmed, member.
Yes.
Nancy Green, associate member.
Okay, and although that's a quorum, we are missing two members right now, Laverne Lavelle and Mike Donovan. I think
George, if you wanted me to, you want to text me their numbers, I could text them or give them a call while you continue.
Oh, that would be, because it's always possible they could have had trouble signing in. Laverne asked me earlier today for the web instructions. Let me just check my thing, Nancy. Although for Laverne, I've only got her phone number for at the
Laverne just joined.
Yes.
Oh, there's Laverne.
Oh, good. Okay, there she is. And I don't know if I've got what I've got for Paul. Excuse me, for Mike. Let me just see.
George, we do have a pretty big attendees list, so it's possible that Mike might be in here. So
Okay.
if anybody can
that
reach
would be
him,
good.
just feel free to share and I can move him over, as I just did with Laverne.
Sure. And well, actually, and I'm not terribly swift at texting. Nancy, Mike's mobile is 508-785-2308.
I'll go ahead and text him.
Okay. And how many people are in attendance at this point, Chris?
We have 30 attendees currently.
Oh, that's great. Okay, well, listen, for the meeting, Chris Costello is our associate or assistant town manager. Thank you, Chris, very much. And is Kristen Gagalis here, our attorney?
I am. Hello.
There you are. Okay, wonderful. Well, I think we're ready to start. And the first thing I'd like everyone to know, the materials that we have received, the application, and preceding that, the materials that were filed with the Massachusetts Housing Finance Authority, and then a very detailed response from the town. All of that is on file at our website. You would go to the government section, go for the Board of Appeals. We are the Zoning Board of Appeals, but our official name is Board of Appeals without zoning in it. And if you do that, you look on the left-hand side, you'll see something that Mike and Chris from the town have populated for us for this project. You click the link and you're going to see everything that I'll be summarizing this evening. And our intention is for the very important goal of keeping everyone involved, that we will keep that site populated with material matters that we receive. The only things that won't be there would be, for example, privileged communications with counsel, things of that sort, if that should be necessary. Let me give you, and then as far as a consultant, it is normal with 40B projects that we have a consultant on board. The consultant who has worked with us in the past, Judy Barrett, is unfortunately tied up until at least mid-December. And that's the case with lots of consultancies these days, because the MBTA has requirements on overlay districts. And so the consultants who are important are hard to find. I've been speaking with the Massachusetts Housing Partnership. We've sent in an application. They are going to find I hope, two competent candidates for me to speak with. And then at that point, we would hire them, and Mr. McGovern would be paying for them. That's part of the process. It's important, though, to understand the consultant is not an advocate. This consultant will be a neutral advisor. The goal is to help us do the balance that's necessary, give a fair hearing to the developer, and to give an equally fair hearing to everyone who's got a position, either for or against. We ourselves have got to be neutral. If we were to become advocates one way or the other, it will taint our decision and make it very hard to defend a decision, should it be appealed in court by either the neighborhood or the developer. So we've got to be very, very neutral. Here's a procedural history of what's happening. The applicant is Tisdale Land LLC, and with us tonight is Paul McGovern. He's the manager of it, and he's going to have a presentation tonight, introduce his team, and that's a key part of tonight's hearing. This is a listening session to the developer. They're applying to build 42 units of rental, 11 of them affordable. The site is 5.1 acres. It's a mix of 1, 2, and 3 bedroom units. It's behind and to the side of County Court, which is our first 40B development in Dover. And the developers propose to use its Tisdale Drive as the sole means of access to this proposal, to this proposed development. It's also directly behind Red Robin Pastures, which is a recently approved rental project, a 40B project, with some, and Paul will explain more what use would be made of that for recreation and other facilities for this proposal. It is near our towns of Walpole, Westwood, and Medfield, who've all been notified of this. And the starting of this was in 2023. The developer applied to the Massachusetts Housing Finance Agency, that's MHFA, for a site approval letter. That's the key thing to start one of these, that the developer get a letter from MHFA seeing that they find the site appropriate. But that is not an approval. It does not co-opt any of our process at this point. But what they've told the developer is, looks like this is a possibility. Proceed. Without that letter, a developer would not go further. But that letter was issued in February 5th, 2024. It's on our website. And preceding that, within 60 days of that 2023 application to MHFA, our town submitted a very, very detailed document. And that also is on the site. It lists a number of issues that town boards and departments saw with the proposal. And that is certainly something that will be very helpful to us, but it's not going to be given any special weight. Those are views, knowledgeable views, but that is not going to govern how we decide. It's simply a point of information for us. Now, the applicant, they paid their $150 initial fee on October 9th. So that was the official submission date. The initial application came in, I think, a day or two early, but the $150 fee payment, that starts us October 9th. And we then, under the law, had 30 days to schedule a hearing. And that's why we're meeting on November 4th. Today, that $150 was really just a starter. There is also a minimum review fee that the developer paid. It was $20,500, and town clerk confirms that was received and has been banked. So we're able now to proceed with this, and that will be used to defray some of the costs for this process. And essentially what happens in this, if costs increase to a certain point, we would be discussing with the developer to have additional amounts contributed. So our requirement, we are looking with the statute, our board, we're the Zoning Board of Appeals for this matter. We are charged under state law to take the place of many of the town boards and departments for purposes of a judgment, our judgment. So the planning board, which would normally deal with a developer, and we have 1 acre and 2 acre zones and certain requirements. The planning board does not have jurisdiction over this. And those zoning rules are not applicable. The whole intention of the state laws, I think, certainly those of you who live in county court know that this was a way for the state to basically tell towns, get something that is more affordable, also attractive, and so that there's no difference between affordable units and other units, but really communities that would be more dense than you might see in a town like ours with its larger 1 and 2 acre zoning requirements. We need to make a fair decision. If it is determined that if the developer determines that we're being unreasonable, that we are just adding conditions that make this uneconomic and are not on their own merits sensible, if the developer determines that's the case, it can appeal to a state agency, which would then review all of this and say, no, Zoning Board of Appeals, you went beyond what you were supposed to do. So again, another reason for us to be very, very careful. Also, there are, and I'm not going to give legal advice to the neighbors or anyone else in town, including our town selectmen or other boards. If they feel something is really wrong, there are legal remedies to pursue. But let's hope that in this process that we're able to come to a decision that everyone believes is fair, whether that is approval, modification, or denial. We're going to go out of our way to be fair on this. So I think here it would be good if Paul McGovern, the manager of the developer, took over, and that's fortunately we've got Chris here to see that Paul's presentation is shown to everyone. So Chris, please proceed.
All you, Paul.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Paul McGovern. I'm hoping I've just set up a screen share. Can everybody see? Can you see the screen share?
We cannot see the screen.
We can see you, Paul. Not your screen, though.
You have it now?
Yep,
yes,
all good, Paul.
That's good.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the introduction. And My name is Paul McGovern, and I'm here on behalf of the development team to present the project this evening and to introduce the project to the ZBA and to those members of the public who are on to hear about it as well. Basically, the development team, the applicant and the property, the property owner is Tisdale Land LLC. Avi Shoss, I believe, is actually on the call, who's the director of development for the Grossman Companies as well. But the Grossman Companies basically is a 5th generation Massachusetts company. Their experienced property development and management team will focus on multifamily and commercial properties. Currently, they have over 800 units of multifamily owned and managed in the Greater Boston metro market. They've entitled over 1,200 new housing units in the past 5 years. Completed 2 Massachusetts 40B projects since 2023, including the Medfield Meadows project, which was a 36-unit development, 24 rental units and 12 for sale townhouses. And recently, the adjacent project, the Pastures at Dover, which had its first occupants in, I believe, July of this year, which is a 34-unit fully rental building adjacent to this project. Right now, they're actively advancing 157 units of affordable housing post-approvals in Westport, Connecticut. Completed 80 units of modular housing in Alston in August 2018, and currently pursuing approvals for an office conversion to 77 units of housing in downtown Boston. Basically, a very experienced and historic developer who has done this on numerous occasions and understands the process and understands the product that is required. Other parts of the development team, council, Marioni, Shaughnessy and Udy out of Quincy, Massachusetts. The architect on the project, I believe John Winslow is on the call, is Winslow Architects out of Arlington. The civil engineer who's prepared all of the civil plans is Ronald Tiberi. I've seen him on the call as well, from Natick. We have a traffic consultant, Finance and Associates, and our landscaping the architect was Lara Green from McCarthy Engineering. There are other consultants part of the setup and will be further added to it throughout the process, but right now these are the key members of the development team. With regard to the project itself, what I have shown on this page here basically is the cover letter that was submitted to the town of Dover as part of the application. As the chairman said, this was done on October 3rd, 2024. There was multiple other documents. I believe they're all public record documents and available on the website now, but this was basically the cover letter which was submitted. It included the ZBA application form, a project narrative, the site approval project eligibility letter from Mass Housing, all of the architectural plans, the site development and civil plans, and the abutters list. And there were fees associated with that also, which the chairman mentioned have been submitted. With regard to 40B, Massachusetts law went into effect in 1969, widely known as the Comprehensive Permit Law, or Chapter 40B, and it established a mandate for all communities in Massachusetts to have a minimum of 10% of their housing stock be affordable to middle and lower income households. To count towards this 10%, affordable housing units must have a permanent or long-term restriction requiring the unit to be sold or rented to households earning less than 80% of the median income in the local area. That's known as the AMI. 10% minimum is based on the total number of year-round housing units reported in the most recent decennial census. For Dover, this currently means that 202 units out of a total of 2018 must be deed restricted as affordable, and that's based on the census in 2020. According to the Town of Dover website, Dover's affordable housing inventory currently stands at 2.83% of total housing inventory with 57 subsidised units. So as you can see, the Town of Dover is quite a way off its required target of 202 units, currently stands at 57. An application for a 42-unit rental apartment building with a minimum of 11 affordable units on 5.1 acre site currently occupied by single family homes at 81 and 85 Tisdale Drive was submitted by the applicant Tisdale Land LLC to Mass Housing in 2023 under Mass General Law Chapter 40B. On the 5th of February 2024, Mass Housing's Housing Finance Agency issued a project eligibility letter approving the project. Dover's Zoning Board of Appeals, or ZBA, has responsibility for processing the comprehensive permit application. It's important to note that comprehensive permits issued for rental developments allow the town to count every unit in the development on the housing list, while only affordable ownership units within ownership developments are counted on the housing list. Basically, what that means, as this is a rental building, all 42 units would go towards the overall count, towards the 10% target. If this was for sale units, only the 11 affordable units would go towards the count. So there is a benefit in rental units in that regard, that all 42 units go towards the overall count and go towards the overall target of 10%. With regard to the project itself, the project location, 81 and 85 Tisdale Drive. Located on Tisdale Drive off of Route 109, or County Street as it's sometimes called. They are the only two single family lots on an otherwise multi-family street. The project site is 3.5 miles from Dover Centre, 2.5 miles from Medfield Centre, 3.2 miles from Westwood Centre. Commuter train access, Walpole Station is 5.5 miles or 12 minutes drive away. Needham Junction, 7 miles, 15 minutes drive. University Ave Westwood, 9.4 miles or a 17-minute drive. Downtown Boston is approximately a 45-minute drive, obviously varies by time of day. And Legacy Place in Dedham which covers a lot of shopping, is approximately 15 minutes away. So you can see the project site is located here on Route 109, which it's directly between Westwood and Medfield. Here's a slightly closer view of the project site. You can see here on the highlighted, this is Route 109 or County Street. Tisdale Drive is here. As you can see, these are the properties along Tisdale, and currently there are two single family lots, 81 Tisdale and 85 Tisdale on this. Highlighted in yellow is the entirety of the two lots. They were very unusual lots at some time in the past. They do tail back right out and back onto County Street. There's about a 70-foot wide strip back here that goes out, actually, and touches County Street. Slightly different view from a slightly different angle. This is one of the most recent aerials on Google Maps. It obviously has been updated quite a bit since this. Right here, there are 4 single family homes. And in this area here, at this point, there's still 2 old derelict houses, but right now, this is the Pastures at Dover project in this area here. So again, just showing Tisdale Drive off of County Street, and here's the project site, the project location here. I took this off the Dover GIS maps. Highlighted in red are the 2 lots. This is 81 Tisdale. This is 85 Tisdale, 2 adjoining lots, which together total 5.19 acres. As you can see on this here, and we'll come back to this a little bit more later anyway, you've got some wetlands towards the rear of the lot. This area in here, these 3 locations here, this is where the Pastures at Dover property is located. Here are the county court apartments. What I've done here is I've kind of added in where the project would be located on the same property. We'll come into this in a little bit more detail, but it's just to give an idea as to where it is. So accessed up Tisdale Drive, 2 driveway entrances into the parking lot at these 2 locations here off Tisdale. Existing conditions, right now there are 2 older single family homes on the 2 lots. The lots do fall away fairly significantly from the street towards the rear of the lot. There's probably close to 20 feet drop off from the street down to the lower points. The green lines here are marking the wetland boundaries at the rear of the site. There is what's called a vernal pool over here further. This is still on the property, but it's quite a distance away from where the proposed work is. But as I said, this site, this part of the lot here is quite flat, but then it falls away significantly. This is all wooded and wetlands back here, and basically you couldn't even walk across most of this. The proposed site plan, and we'll get to this in a little bit more detail as well, but basically we are looking at a single building, 3-story. This is Tisdale Drive down along here. You've got 2 entrances or exits in and out of the parking. A single building, more or less at right angles, perpendicular to the street, perpendicular to the south, to the site boundary. This section of the building is 3 stories. Then as the lot falls away, this wing is proposed to be 4 stories. We'll get into the details of the number of parking spaces and all of that further into the presentation. Basically, here are the project summary. As I mentioned, the site in total is 5.19 acres. What is being proposed is 42 units. That consists of 9 one-bed units, 26 two-bed units, and 7 3-bed units. Out of this, 11 units would be considered affordable, or would be deed recorded as being affordable units. Right now, there are 65 on-site surface parking spaces proposed. Out of the 42 units, 3 of the units would be fully ADA accessible units with level entry showers, grab rails, ADA kitchens, ADA bathrooms, fully accessible. Important thing to note is that all floors will be accessible via elevator. So basically it means that all units in the building, no matter what floor they're on, are accessible to people with needs. But 3 are fully designed with ADA kitchens, bathrooms, and with full ADA accessibility requirements. Most of the units have private balconies on the upper floors or small patio spaces. All of the AC units are designed currently to be on the roof of the property, so they're basically for 2 purposes: out of sight, and also secondly, to minimize any noise from the units. There is interior community space inside in the property, inside in the building. There's a package room, a gym, a laundry. Actually, there's 2 laundries, tenant storage, lockers for the use of the tenants to store any excess material. Interior trash room, which again is an important one. It keeps the trash from becoming an issue on the exterior of the building. Interior bicycle storage. There is extensive landscaping proposed. There are exterior patio locations separate to the individual patio locations. Exterior patio locations, typically with a barbecue and stuff like that, where people can congregate on the exterior of the building. And there are a number of EV electric vehicle car charger spaces proposed also. The building, as I mentioned, is 3-story, facing and parallel to Tisdale Drive. The only public view from Tisdale Drive of the property will be 3-story. The building then follows the natural slope of the site and increases in height perpendicular to Tisdale Drive, as I showed in one of the previous slides. The building facades are modulated using various exterior materials, colours, balconies, and undulating facades to visually reduce the height and scale and to better transition to the adjoining properties. So we're not dealing with just flat surfaces. There's various bump outs, there's various different materials, all done with the intent of having a visually attractive building that doesn't stand out from its surroundings. Exterior materials will consist of composite, horizontal and vertical siding, shingle, panels, energy efficient windows and doors with architectural details and trim of similar composite materials. The development will use high performance envelope insulation systems, high efficiency heating and cooling systems, Energy Star appliances, and LED lighting systems both inside and out. The project will meet or exceed the requirements of the current stretch energy code, as well as the specialised opt-in code if adopted by the town. There are significant updates in the energy codes in the last 2 years. This building will have to comply with those updated energy codes. What I have shown here is basically a typical floor plan. On this floor plan, 1 beds are in blue, 2 beds are in green, 3 beds are in orange, and then you can see some of the common areas or the community spaces. Here you've got a community room with a patio outside it. You've got a mail and package room. You've got a storage room. This be internal storage room for bicycles. In a basement area which can be used for the tenants to store excess items. The typical items that we see people storing in these are ski poles, bicycles, suitcases, such things. This is a typical 1 bed. All 1 beds have 1 bathroom. All 2 and 3 beds have 2 bathrooms. So here you're seeing a typical very high-end finishes. You've got a living room, dining, kitchen, bathroom, and your bedroom. 2 bed, as I mentioned, all of the 2 beds have 2 bathrooms. And here is a typical 3 bed. Again, you see all of these have their own individual private deck also. What we have here is basically a render perspective view that we have done. This is in on the site. This is considered the main entrance here at, I guess you could call it the elbow of the building. This will be the main entrance in onto the site. This is the wing of the building that is parallel to Tisdale Drive. As you can see, it is 3-storey. And then as the property falls away, so you don't see a huge increase in height, as the property falls away, it increases to a 4-storey. This is the view, the 3-storey view from Tisdale Drive. One thing that's important to note, which is not shown here, is that it is our intent. There are trees right now all along this the property boundary here, and it is our intent to maintain whatever trees we can in that area. And also we will be adding supplementary landscaping once the project is complete to try and shield and minimize the effect of this from Tisdale Drive. But this is the proposed elevation that will be visible from Tisdale Drive. With regard to the site plan, the property is accessed by 2 entrances off Tisdale Drive, allowing for a potential 1-way system to operate. So like I said, there's 2 entrances. You could come in this way and go back out this way. So it would minimize the locations where cars are going on to Tisdale Drive, but there are 2 entrances. The driveway layout provides ample emergency vehicle access with turning capabilities within the property. So this is designed with fire equipment and emergency vehicle equipment access in mind. They can turn around here. They can also turn around on this turning circle. So emergency vehicles would not have to turn around on Tisdale Drive. They can turn on the street itself. A paved emergency only access is proposed at the rear of the building. So in order to provide additional access to emergency vehicles if required, these lines you can see here are grass pavers. So grass will be grown up through that. It will appear as if it were lawn, but this is a drivable paved surface which provides emergency access along the back of the property. As I mentioned before, there are 65 surface parking spaces proposed with dedicated accessible and van accessible spaces adjacent to the building entrances. Here you can see some of those highlighted. There will be electric vehicle charging stations provided as well. Exterior lighting is designed to minimize the impact and spill onto adjacent properties. A lighting survey has been done, as will be required to show that no lighting from this project should spill onto adjacent properties. Existing perimeter landscaping and trees to remain where possible. So as I mentioned, there is quite a bit of landscaping along here currently, and it is our intent, where possible, and given following an assessment of the quality, it is our intent to maintain what we can along this as a buffer. There is an extensive landscape design which has been completed and submitted. All utilities are to be provided underground within the property. So there should be no poles, no overhead wires, anything like that. Everything would be underground. On-site recreational facilities for building occupants to be provided. So as I mentioned, we typically do things like a dog park, a kids tot lot, a patio area with barbecue facilities for the exclusive use of the tenants. With regard to the site utilities, a stormwater management system has been designed to manage attenuation and treatment of stormwater on site. We do have holding tanks which gather all stormwater that is generated on site, and the stormwater should remain on site and will have no impact on any of the abutting properties. Domestic water to serve the property will be provided by Aquarian Water. Fire suppression is to be served by an underground storage tank on site. So Aquarian Water will not be supplying water for fire suppression. Basically, I don't know if you can see it here, but there is an underground tank shown. That tank gets filled probably by tankers and is used for fire suppression should that be required. Sewer will be handled by a private on-site septic system. All systems are designed to meet or exceed required standards. There are wetland resources on the property currently, which put this project within the jurisdiction of Department of Environmental Protection, the DEP, and Dover Conservation Commission. The project will be required to file a notice of intent and participate in a public hearing process with Dover Conservation Commission. The project will be required to satisfy the requirements and performance standards of the Dover bylaw and Dover regulations and the Massachusetts Wetland Protection Act and regulations. And again, all systems are designed to meet or exceed required standards. So again, this is just showing some of this is the stormwater management. You can see all the grey stormwater treatment unit. Just some more detail here. You can see the fire water tank. Here we have the proposed septic system that is proposed. It's called a Presby system that is proposed for the property. And here is the landscaping plans. You can see there is extensive landscaping proposed. And that, again, this document has been submitted, so anyone is free to review it. With regard to traffic, the applicant has submitted a detailed transportation impact assessment known as a TIA, prepared by Vanass and Associates for this project. Based on their TIA, the project is expected to generate approximately 284 vehicle trips on an average weekday, and that is two-way 24-hour volume, with 17 vehicle trips expected during the weekday morning peak hour and 21 vehicle trips expected during the weekday evening peak hour. The assessment found that the project will not result in a significant impact on motorist delays or vehicle queuing over existing or anticipated future conditions without the project. Lines of sight at the Tisdale Drive intersection with Route 109 were found to exceed the recommended minimum distances for the intersection to operate in a safe and efficient manner. The report concludes that the project can be accommodated within the confines of the existing transportation infrastructure in a safe and efficient manner. A detailed transportation improvement program has been developed that is designed to provide safe and efficient access to the project site and address any deficiencies identified as part of the assessment. Again, that traffic assessment has been submitted to the ZBA as part of our application. Basically, as part of this process, we will be requesting variances, as is typical with a 40B project. We will be requesting variances from some of the Dover zoning bylaws. These waivers are listed here. For example, this is a single family zone. We're proposing multifamily. There will be a waiver required from that. The minimum lot size, we don't require a waiver. Minimum frontage, we don't require a waiver. So there are a certain amount of waivers. The maximum height, we will be requesting a waiver as part of that as well. And there are other waivers, again, which is a typical part of Dover ZBA process. These are waivers that are being requested as part of this process. So basically that concludes our presentation of the project. We look forward to working with you through this process and providing answers to any questions that you may have about the project.
Thank you. That was very informative. And what we should do now, I'm going to first go through the review of the state agency. That this was a review that also included a site visit by the state, and the result of that was this ended up with a letter from the state MHFA in February 5th, 2004, after reviewing comments from the town, that they considered this to be an appropriate site. There's not an approval, but I think it's important for all of us to, and this is on the website, to look at what the state issued. It's attachment 1 to their letter. It's very detailed, and it includes some conclusions that I think we do need to observe and be aware of as we review this project. First, MHFA found that the project appears generally eligible under the requirements. And essentially that was deciding that the construction with at least 25 affordable units, and they have numbers here, that it met their guidelines, so that this was not just a developer trying to do a development that didn't meet affordability guidelines. They considered the site to be generally appropriate for residential development. That's fine. That's a fairly broad catch-all. That's not saying that this is approved, but that is one of their conclusions. They thought that the project design itself fit in well with the topography, environmental resources, other things that actually are at this location. And this is after a site review. Paul, may I ask you, because this predated my joining the board, and maybe our board members know, was anyone present at this site review other than MHFA and the development team? Was the public invited? Were any of the boards in town invited to this site review?
The town boards were definitely invited, and there was probably close to 20 people at it on the day that it happened. Most of them were town. I believe some members of the public were there as well, but there were definitely town officials from various different town departments at it.
Okay, well, thank you. The MHFA looked at the proposed architecture, the materials, other things, the provisions for lobbies and community rooms, and felt the design would meet its standards. It looked at the relationship to the adjacent streets and integration into the existing development patterns. It noted it's close to 3 other towns and off of County Street 109, and felt that this was appropriate. And the density itself, 42 rental units on approximately 5.1 acres of land, of which 2.63 are buildable. They say that resulting density is just under 16 units per buildable acre, which they considered acceptable given the proposed housing type. The conceptual sites plan, the L-shaped building itself, and the fact that it would have to be located outside of a 100-foot wetland setback, that there would be some existing trees remaining. They considered that conceptual site plan to be appropriate. For the environmental resources, and there is a vernal pool there, as the developer pointed out, whether that's going to require reciting some of this is going to be a matter for the Conservation Commission to decide. And a note about what I said earlier about our board, the Board of Appeals having override authority over town boards. There is an exception. There are two exceptions. One is the Conservation Commission. The other is the health department. And as long as they stay within state guidelines and do not go to broader, unique Dover guidelines that exceed state standards, their findings will be observed by this board. So they do, their jobs are so important. The state recognizes that. They don't want a Board of Appeals to be overriding those proper interpretations of sanitation and environmental preservation. The topography, they looked at the fact that this is a land with some slope, but felt that the way the building would be sited, that was not going to be an impediment. They looked at the financial feasibility, and they said there'd be a market for this. They felt that it was something with enough value that it would not just be a building that would get started without enough financing, and that they wouldn't want us to waste our time or the developer's time if they did not consider that to be the case. So that is one of their initial findings. The last is going to get into something that's very, very material, and I'll bring this up in a bit. Does the applicant control the site? That's referring really to two aspects. The site itself, where the construction takes place, but also this is going to deal with the access to the site on Tisdale Drive. And there are some issues. The developer knows about that. The town has put them out, and I'll go over those in a minute. But first, I wanted you to get a bird's eye view of what the state has determined after receiving the very detailed comments of our town. And they're not saying that those are wrong. They're not essentially overruling them. But they felt there was enough merit to this application that this site was appropriate for what's being proposed. What I want to do now is get to the very detailed comments and just outline the issues that troubled the town boards and departments. And again, this is all on our website. You look for the comments that the town made October 27th to MHFA. Issues they presented: the road, the size and the width. It's only 22 feet wide and not designed for two-way traffic or curbside parking. That was one concern. There was definitely a concern about sewage disposal and the fact that this is occurring almost within a year or two of the developer having proposed and received approval for its existing Red Robin pastures. The concern, one of the comments that was submitted by the town was, had this all been presented as an integrated project, it is quite likely that instead of on-site disposal of sewage, that there would have, that the two together exceed 10,000 gallons a day. And the result would be that there'd be a much more expensive wastewater treatment facility required to address the needs of that combined project, although it is separate. And that is, and whether that is going to be required, that is a very, very serious matter for the Board of Health to address. The water itself is coming from Aquarian. You know, we in Dover have always had concerns about adequacy of water. There seems that we'll certainly want a renewal of the commitment of the water company that they're going to provide water. One thing pointed out in this presentation is there is going to be an on-site tank, a reservoir tank. And that I don't think that was really that clear to the town at the time, I am thinking, but a reservoir tank will, to some extent, alleviate the concern that Aquarian says they cannot provide water for fire hazard. Trash, there was concern of the town about the location of the dumpster pad, and parking. There was great concern that with 42 units, there would be only 65 spaces. And Paul, am I correct? 65 spaces is what's presently proposed, or is that changed?
No, that is correct.
Okay. Then, above all, this is last, but certainly not least by any means. We've got, at least last year, there were 26 children of various ages walking, school, and there are no sidewalks there. Whether sidewalks can be built, whether there's room for that, that's certainly a big consideration, especially when you've got now the traffic of a whole new development, 42 apartments, which are not going to be just 42 people. There'll be more than 42 people living in those. There was concern about whether the cul-de-sac was adequate for turning radius, but Paul, what I see in your proposal, certainly not downplaying that, it looks like the cul-de-sac is really not going to be where the radius would be for fire trucks, that it would be on the site of this property, the way you've designed that. And we'll get into that more, but that was a concern of the town. And there was a concern about open space and whether, in fact, what was really going to be used was space that was at the Red Robin development, which had been approved with that space reserved for Red Robin, that would that now be co-opted also by this dwelling. You don't need to answer these things, but what I think I would want you, Paul, to address, you know, as soon as you can, getting us something in writing with detail that really does address the concerns of the town in that October 23rd letter. The more detail on this, the more response we have there, that will be very, very helpful. Next, for the meeting for tonight, I want to emphasize a couple of things about comment, especially from people who live there. There's nothing, except for your family, nothing's more important than your home. Your comments will be addressed, and you've got it. Council, obviously, we just got that what your council prepared just I think within an hour of the meeting started. We'll look at that. What I would ask, in order that comments are put together in a persuasive and orderly fashion that can be analyzed, something in writing, and ideally, if you've now got council retained, that is going to be very, very helpful for us in being objective in coming to right decisions. It's comments that are simply at a public meeting without real detail behind, but that are comments from the heart, that can be understood, but that's just not legally persuasive for this type of proceeding. We need things in writing that are well reasoned. And I'm very pleased. We've got council's thing. I do see a resident has submitted comments already. We will, obviously, those are going to be reviewed by the board. But that is, the more organized you can keep this, and if you've got a lawyer, the more things come through a lawyer who is used to this process, the more helpful it's going to be to coming to a good decision. Now, at this point, I think it's only we've made good progress. It's not quite 1 hour, and I think what we could do now is open this up for limited comments. And first, I would like to ask the board, my fellow board members, would you like to ask anything at this time that isn't already on this list of concerns, something that they have not thought of, that the town didn't think about, that we add this to the list so that the developer know this is a concern? Board members, do you know of anything that would not, that of those concerns I just listed, anything that should be added to that? And believe me, this does not preclude any of us, because this is all newly filed. We're just seeing the presentation for the first time tonight. But if you have some concerns about that, or just generally about some of these other issues that you really want the developer to focus on, let's open it up to the board members first. And anyone who'd like to speak or ask a question, please just raise your hand, and Chris will or turn on your mic, and let's hear that. And okay.
Can you see me? Can you see me? Or for some reason, my picture's not coming up. So I have this Laverne Lovell speaking. Can you see me?
Yeah,
No.
we don't see you in person.
I don't know what happened to my picture. So I'm most concerned about the height of the buildings, how close they're going to be to the sideline. You drive down the street, for the people that live there, is it going to be a giant shadow over the whole place? I mean, it seemed very tall, taller than anything else in town, and dense. And without actually going to the site and seeing how it's going to be, will probably give me a different view. But that's my initial thought.
Well, that's a good one. It's on the plans, but I'll tell you, and all of us who've been involved in this, I was on the planning board for 11 years. One thing we learned was whatever's on paper is great, but you got to get out to the site and
see what it's going to look like. And have it staked. It needs to be staked so you can see where is the curb going to be and where's the drive.
What we're going to do, and I'll get to this a bit later, and actually when we meet after this, we'll set up a schedule for site visits, and then later sessions of this hearing, and then let the public know what works in with our schedules, so that we can do exactly what you're asking, Laverne. Get to know this project in a way that's not just looking at paper and conceptual slides.
And where they had that on the map where the land circles around and comes back out onto Route 109, why can't that be the driveway?
Listen, I think those are good questions, but I think that let's at this stage maybe reserve our comments about redesigning to a bit later in the process. Is there anyone else on our board who has a question?
So I think in the last 40B process,
Thank you, Nadir. Yes.
Yeah, this is me, Nadir Ahmed. In the last 40B process we participated in, I think we had sort of an engineering expert and another expert who did some reviews for us and kind of flagged issues that thought they assessed kind of materials and then made sort of recommendations and added some thoughts. I'm assuming the intent is to do so
Oh,
here as well.
definitely, yes. And in fact, the only holdup is our first three choices are all people who are not available. They're so busy. And so actually, I was on the phone with Mass Housing Partnership today. Their person in charge of this is very, very nice lady, has been on vacation for a week. So I got her first day back. And yeah, we're definitely going to have a consultant, at least one consultant, yes.
I think this is Nancy Green. My concern when I heard there's 26 children from the other development in front. So how many more children or kids would you expect to be moving into these 42 units? I guess I'm most concerned about safety, the fact that the road is not meant for two cars, it's one car. There's no sidewalks. Where do the kids get the bus? I'm assuming there's children, they're gonna be, where are they getting the bus and where are they walking? So I've got safety beyond the sewage and the water, but that to me was a big red flag. Along with the parking, it seems if you have 42 units and 62 parking spaces, something doesn't add up in my mind. I'm assuming most people, if there's 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom units, they're gonna have 2 cars. So that was a concern. Thank you.
Hello? George?
Yes.
This is Mike Donovan.
Hi, Mike.
Yeah, I'm on the phone. I wasn't able to get you through my computer. I tried to get you in the beginning of the meeting, but nobody could hear me. So I think there's a big issue here that we need to bring into the open. And it has to do with there's a taint that's underlining this negotiation. And to be in a valid negotiation, it should be done in good faith with mutual trust and respect for both parties. And I find that there are 3 taints that exist on the other side of the table that need to be addressed. One, first and foremost, is Mr. Corrigan. He's suing the ZBA board for a decision we didn't make in his favor, and now he wants us to approve his ZBA project. I think that is a significant problem between the town of Dover and Mr. Corrigan and Mr. McGovern, having this lawsuit out there with 4 of us actively participating in this particular meeting. That's for Mr. Corrigan. 2, Mr. McGovern in the Red Robin pasture negotiation knew of the sanctioning of Jeff Engler, who was his project manager. He hid that from the ZBA for nearly a year, and it became known to us after the second to the last meeting of the Red Robin Pastures Comprehensive Permit Project. So that's another taint. The third taint is Mr. Engler. He was sanctioned by the MHA and was issued 2 letters of such and was suspended from participating in future MHA 40B projects. Yet here he is listed as a member of the this project team. So I think we need to, as a board, go into an executive session with council and discuss these 3 taints on this negotiation, because it is not a above board mutual trust negotiation.
Mike, I'm new to all this. Did I hear you correctly that you are a party to litigation against these people?
Yes, myself.
Okay,
Nancy,
Mike,
myself.
I'll tell you now, you're not a voting member, you're a very, very important member to stand in, but I think that is one issue we are going to have to address with council, whether you should recuse yourself from this proceeding. But I hear all of this, but I've never seen a board. And actually, Kristen, and we're not going to make a decision on this, but I'm going to put a red flag right now that if you're in litigation with the applicant, it's very hard for me to see how you cannot have a conflict of interest here. And it may take the proceeding. Mike, I'm sorry. We'll talk about this after with council in executive session.
George,
Yeah.
that Nancy Green, Laverne Lovell, and Nadir are also mentioned in the lawsuit.
Are they, well, mentioned is one thing. Are you, no, let's make sure I get the
Yeah.
facts. Are you a plaintiff? Are you a plaintiff?
No,
in this
we're
lawsuit?
on the zoning board of appeals, and Mr. Corrigan came before us wanting us to approve something for a piece of land that didn't belong to him. And he's suing the zoning board.
Oh, okay, so you're just a defendant in a lawsuit.
That's correct.
Okay, good. So you're not suing or as an
No.
individual. You're simply, yeah, boards get sued all the time. Okay, that's understandable. No, I just wanted to be sure. Again, I'm new to this, but I wanted to be sure we had the facts. Great. I'm glad to hear that. Look,
Right.
that's an important consideration. That was the first, I think, 3 pages of the town's comments.
That's correct.
It didn't seem to matter much to MHFA, obviously. They don't.
Well.
Yeah. So that's. But it's important to know we've got that. But I think here, and I know Paul, you'd like, but I think here, this is something we would be better served to address at a later session of the hearing.
Yeah, I just would like to clarify that Jeff
Oh, yes, go ahead.
Jeff Engler is not mentioned anywhere in this, nor is he part of this process in any way whatsoever. So I just want to put that on record.
So Corrigan is not part of this?
No, Jeff Engler is
Oh,
not.
Jeff Engler, okay,
Nor is he mentioned anywhere in it.
okay. Well, I don't know those facts or what's involved here as far as that, but I'd like to look at this project. I think we don't have much choice. We've got to look at this project on its own merits. Now, what I think at this stage, we can certainly ask for some comments from citizens. What I would like you, I don't want this, and this is typical, it's not just me. I don't want this to be a debating session between persons with great interest and the developer. If you have a question, address it to the board, address it to me and for the board, and we will then ask the developer to respond to us. But it's not going to be a back and forth, and that's one of the advantages of Zoom. Instead of having everyone on the floor, are debating with each other. So let's ask for some questions. I'd like you to keep them, please, to no more than 1 or 2 minutes at most. And let's see if we can take, maybe 5 or 10 citizen comments.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, could we request that people identify themselves?
Oh, absolutely. That's a good point. And that's certainly fine. And that's also good because let me just give you a quick, everyone here, kind of some reason why with Zoom, we've actually gone to more of a hybrid process where this is because the town boards who have been conducting Zoom the regular way have been basically vandalized by people who crash into the meeting, show horrible things on the screen, flood it with obscenities. And so this whole process is a more monitored process because of that. As I understand it, at least now, the town's YouTube site where we show replays, apparently, whether it's these same vandals or others, they complain to YouTube, and YouTube has taken it off the site, that basically saying that the town is not following YouTube standards. So the town is trying to work that out. It's one of the 10 million aggravations our poor town manager has to deal with, and our selectmen. But with that background, may I please have some questions? And Chris, if you can have people do this, and Dylan Brown, yes, you're an attorney with the Arico firm.
If
Yes.
I may, before anybody in attendance who would like to ask a question, we're asking you to please first when you get called on, please state your name and address. But more importantly, make sure you're using the raise hand function on the bottom of your screen. That's how we'll know that you'd like to speak and ask a question. So with that, I do see a couple hands up first. So George, I'll just start allowing people to speak.
Well, let's start with Attorney Brown, because I believe it's your letter and an initial presentation that you filed with us just before the meeting started. So I certainly want to hear from you who you represent, and that would be very helpful. Thank you.
Great, Mr. Chairman, can you hear me?
Yes, very well.
Excellent. Good evening, Mr. Chairman. My name is Dylan Brown. I'm an attorney with the law office of Marcus Arrico, Emmer and Brooks, and our firm represents the County Court Condominium Associate or Condominium Trust, which is the organization of unit owners of the County Court Condominium located along Tisdale Drive in Dover, Massachusetts, which, as we've discussed tonight, directly abuts the proposed project site and the two single-family homes which are currently housed at 81 and 85 Tisdale Drive in Dover. Now, pursuant to Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40B, which is known as the Comprehensive Permit Statute, the ZBA may grant the request for a comprehensive permit, provided that it deems that this project is what is known to be consistent with local needs. Now, the legal standard provides that that the balance that is weighed is the need for affordable housing in Dover measured against the impacts that this project is going to have on the health and safety of the surrounding community. And here, it's condominium's position, and these concerns have been echoed through the Board of Selectmen's letter that have been mentioned tonight, dated October 27th of last year. Essentially, the condominium agrees with those concerns, and by no means does the construction of 42 apartments outweigh the devastating impacts that a project of this magnitude is going to have on the abutting condominium property. First and foremost, the main concern regards the ownership and the rights to use Tisdale Drive, which the Condominium Trust calls into question. The sole means provided to access this property is through Tisdale Drive alone. And however, Tisdale Drive is a private roadway that's owned by the Condominium Trust and is actually considered a part of the condominium common area. Therefore, the developer in the condominium's position is that the developer has no right to access Tisdale Drive absent an expressed grant from the association, because Tisdale Drive constitutes a part of the common area. And that's because this all dates back to the comprehensive permit that was issued to the Condominium Trust for the development of County Court back on, I believe it was October 4th of 1991, so some time ago. But what that comprehensive permit did was grant the condominium declarant, meaning the developer of the condominium, the right to construct a county court condominium, but more importantly, granted them the right to construct Tisdale Drive. And that means that Tisdale Drive is located solely within the boundaries of condominium property, and therefore it's not part of 81 or 85 Tisdale Drive. And like we said, absent an express grant from the association, meaning that Tisdale Drive is part of condominium property, absent a grant from the association to any abutter, including anyone in 85 Tisdale Drive, meaning the developer, then the developer has no right to use Tisdale Drive as part of this project. And our office has conducted a title search, and we don't find that any grant has been issued, not from the Condominium Trust for that reason. So the position that the Condominium Trust has taken is that if this project is going to proceed, the developer is going to need to provide some definitive proof that they have a legal right to access Tisdale Drive for use of this property. I think one of the board members had also mentioned that there's a location off of County Street that could also be used, which wouldn't impact the condominium as severely in this matter. But notwithstanding the fact that we don't believe the developer has the right to access Tisdale Drive as part of this project, Tisdale Drive is simply not equipped to handle the addition of 42 apartments and over 65 vehicles a day. As the town is echoed in its concerns, is that Tisdale Drive is only 22 feet wide and it ends with a small cul-de-sac. And that the way that Tisdale is currently designed, it doesn't allow for the way 2 lanes of traffic. It's really a 1 lane that allows condominium residents to go to and from to the community, and therefore the addition of 65 plus vehicles on that roadway on a given day is substantially going to increase traffic in an area that is already grossly saturated with congestion, given its close proximity to Route 9, which is a major state highway that runs through the state of Massachusetts. In addition to that, what the board has also mentioned as a safety concern is that the condominium houses several children who utilize the Dover-Sherburne public school system, and as the board has also raised, is that there's no sidewalks on condominium property. So what that means is that every single student who needs to utilize the bus in order to go to and from school needs to walk down Tisdale Drive and go to a bus stop, a small bus stop that's located along Route 109. And because there's no sidewalks, these students either have to walk, or they ride their bikes, or they walk together to and from up and down Tisdale Drive, all the way down to Route 109. And if there's going to be increase of traffic of upwards of 65 vehicles a day, which are undoubtedly going to be, leaving their apartments at the same time that these kids are going to school, this is significant safety issues that the board and the town need to be concerned of. These students could be hurt when they're simply trying to go to and from school. So the developer needs to come up with an answer, or safety precautions that can be put in place that's going to protect these kids, because there's no sidewalks. They have no other option of how to go to and from the bus every morning. And in addition to that, parking is also an issue that's been raised by the board in just this evening. The way that we read it is that section 185-34, the Dover zoning bylaw, provides that for residential developments, you need 2 parking spaces per dwelling unit. I'm not understanding where the developer is doing their math, coming up with the need for only, I believe, 60 or 63 parking spaces. But the way that we read it, for 42 residential apartments, you need 84 parking spaces, and 65 is grossly short of the necessary parking that you're going to need for a development of this magnitude and this size. We're already talking about adding 65 plus vehicles a day to an area that's already grossly saturated with traffic, and there needs to be sufficient parking. And because not even just condominium residents, nobody can park along Tisdale Drive absent of parking spaces. So the condominium's fear is that if there's not sufficient parking on site of the apartment, where's the next best thing that these tenants are going to lead to? They're going to park in what limited available parking that there remains on condominium property, which is going to detriment nobody but the association in the matter. And I promise I'll be brief, Chairman. I'm almost done.
No, please proceed. It's very helpful, and I'm glad you're speaking for the whole association.
We are, and a number of, my understanding is that a number of the residents are in attendance tonight, if not the Board of Trustees, who my office has been working with. And, speaking of that matter, our office has been working with the association, particularly with respect to the water issues that the condominium has been suffering. It's my understanding that it's no secret in the town of Dover that the association and the nearby residents have been plagued with significant water quality and water, sufficient supply issues due to the limited availability that is being generated to this condominium. So I'm sure the board is aware, and the developer has noted that what water is provided to the condominium through privately owned underwater wells through a company that's known as Aquarium Water Company. And the association has had significant problems with them with respect to, like I said, water quantity and water quality. Specifically, the number of condominium residents have suffered from low water pressure. And the issue with low water pressure, not even getting into the inability for the fire department to extinguish a fire or to respond to emergency, it's a sanitary factor. as well. What most condominium residents are concerned about is that there's limited water pressure, meaning that there's limited water that they're able to use within their own homes. That includes cleaning and bathing and drinking water. And that's a significant concern for a lot of the residents in this community, because they quite frankly aren't permitted to live safely within their own homes due to a lack of water, which they should be provided in the town of Dover. And speaking of drinking water, the other main concern that all the residents within the county court condominium have been plagued with in one time or another is the poor water quality. There's been a significant issue with Aquarion with respect to discoloration of water and brown water that's being provided to these communities. It got so bad to the point where Aquarion was forced to provide bottled water to residents within this neighborhood. And therefore,
Attorney Brown, thank you. And let me just ask, I'm looking forward, all of us are looking forward to reading what you have submitted. And we're certainly, we're going to make that available to the developer right away for something for them to address. I mean, these are all critical issues. So your choice, Counselor. One more minute. Is there one other important thing you'd like to bring to our attention? And
I think if I could just finish on the water. Yeah.
Okay.
If I can just finish on the water, I think the gist of what the condominium's main concern is that if 56 residential condominiums are already suffering and plagued with issues with respect to water quality and sufficient water supply, what is the addition of 42 additional apartments with 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3-bedroom apartments going to have on an already depleted water supply system? There needs to be an answer to that, because the construction and the addition of these additional units by no means should have any impact on the residents of this association who have lived there for the early better part of the 90s. And for those reasons, Mr. Chairman, with respect to the ownership of Tisdale Drive, the inability to use Tisdale Drive for additional vehicles, parking and water concerns, the condominium trust is respectfully requesting that the comprehensive permit be denied, because by no means is it consistent with the local needs of this community. Thank you for your time.
Well, thank you. It's a very good presentation. Now, I think if we have citizens who would like to add something to Attorney Brown's presentation, raise your hand, okay? If it is simply a comment, I don't want this, that's okay. We can listen to some of that. But the key thing is issues. What issues have not been presented yet? Is there a new issue that hasn't even been mentioned at this point? Does anyone have a new issue? And I see Meredith Whalen has raised her virtual hand. Chris, let's talk with Ms. Whalen. Chris?
Just waiting for Mary.
Hi there. So it's
Oh, there
Meredith,
she is. Okay, hi.
so Meredith Whalen from 15 Schaffner. So I appreciate that the presentation tonight was addressing concerns about the elevation for the Tisdale neighbors, but on the Schaffner side as an abutter, we're going to be abutting the 4-story building. And so I'd like for the board in future conversations to be able to identify for us what will be the impact of the light study and how many trees will be taken down between those properties, particularly because you noted that their elevation does drop off. So we'd be interested in seeing that as a follow-up item. Additionally, I also just wanted to add to the water discoloration issue is also an issue over here on Schaffner as well.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good point to raise, because yeah, there are neighbors in addition to neighbors on Tisdale Drive. Thank you for alerting us to that and this new issue. So this is a new issue to consider, and I would ask Paul McGovern, please add that to your checklist. Okay. Is there, I see Cheryl McDonald and one other have raised their hand. let's admit Cheryl to the meeting now virtually.
Hi, George. This is Cheryl McDonald, and I am at 86 Tisdale Drive. I
Yes.
actually just have a question because we had all been asked to submit concerns and yeah, areas of concerns, and I know at least I sent a very detailed letter at one point raising my concerns to apparently another agency in the departments of Dover. So I
Yeah.
guess I'm asking, why are we resubmitting all of this,
Oh,
all of our
okay.
concerns to you
Well,
now?
sure, that's a good question. And now that the application has been filed, anything the other agencies could have been involved with, it now has to go to us, the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Board of Appeals. So I don't know which agency or department you submitted that to. I'd certainly think it would be good if you have a copy, send that to my attention. Again, look at your agenda. You've got my email on behalf of the board. So that is one way to send it. The other way to send it, if you want to use snail mail, is to mail it to me with the attention of the town clerk. So you'd mail it to town hall. But I think most of us are email people these days. So use my email that's on the agenda, and that is gchimento@dover.gov. Use that, or dovermad.gov, gchimento@dovermad.gov. It's on your agenda, and we'll then, when I get those, I'll circulate that to all the board members so that we stay up to date with concerns. I see. Thank you, Cheryl. Let's have Alan Levine speak next.
Good evening. My name's Alan Levine, 62 Tisdale. I'm sort of new to a process like this, so I hope I'm in line, and I appreciate the words of the condominium's attorney. But maybe a topic that I haven't heard expressed tonight would be the general situation of Route 109 going through Westwood, which covers many of the people living in Dover, Medfield, Millis, Westwood itself. That road every morning is totally overloaded. Who is talking to the state of Massachusetts, which I guess owns that road, about allowing any further construction in that zone, which includes this project that's being proposed? I guess we'd like to address that at a future time.
Yeah, I think, well, first the applicant submits a traffic study. When we have a consultant on board, we'll address that. That certainly did not seem to be a problem with the state agency that is in charge of this. I think they seem to feel that would not, if I'm inferring correctly from their presentation, that is not as much an issue for them. But we don't know until we see hard data and reputable consultants opining on this. Alan, thank you. I see Janice Abramovitz has raised her hand. Janice, please proceed. Whoop. And Chris?
Can you hear me?
Yes, okay. There you are.
Okay, great. Yeah,
you're just a little J on the screen. Don't be bashful. Have a picture.
Not bashful. So I just want to also draw attention. It's not just the traffic on what is basically a one-way street. You know, there's a lot of young children, as was noted, that go to school. And what the parents do, rightfully so, is they'll drive their cars to the entrance of Tisdale Drive onto 109. as they either drop their kids off to catch the bus or to pick them up. So, now imagine 20, 30 more cars lined up, and it would be a horrific accident waiting to happen. So I just wanted to mention that. And
It's a
then
good point.
yeah, and then a question I have. So I still don't understand why 109 going through Red Robin can't be the access point. I've heard mentioned that there's wetlands, et cetera. But if the developer is already thinking of moving a vernal pool for this development, why can't the wetlands be moved as well, if that's what's preventing the access from being on 109 going through the Red Robin apartments?
I'm not sure. And again, we'll need more detail. I don't believe, and let me ask the developer, I don't believe you're seeking to move the vernal pool, and you're waiting for the Conservation Commission, I think, to actually finish their process with you. Am I correct about that? Catch us up. What's going on with that vernal pool?
Yeah, the moving a vernal pool is not something it's not possible.
I'm sorry. What?
It wouldn't be possible for starters.
Okay, so and so you're not thinking of moving the vernal pool.
Absolutely not.
I've never heard of that as part of a development process. So essentially, you're waiting for the Conservation Commission, I believe, to give you guidance about your current site plan. Is that and its location? Is that correct?
We will have to go through an entire Conservation Commission process, through the whole entire hearing process with the conservation as part of this process also.
Okay, now at that point, is there anything pending with the Conservation Commission, or you just said you have to start something?
Yeah, right now we have an ANRAD application in with them, which is just basically a clarification of the wetland line. We have submitted the wetland line to them, and we require that they approve it.
Fine.
It's
And
called an ANRAD,
for the benefit of everyone who doesn't live with acronyms every day, what's ANRAD?
You're going to give me a second on that myself for the actual.
That's okay.
Abbreviated Notice of Resource Area Delineation.
That's right. So you're getting the wetlands mapped to see that there's agreement, but the vernal pool itself is a related but different issue, and you've not started any process with them with respect to the vernal pool, or
that's correct. That's correct.
Okay. And are you seeking to move it by any means? I'm not sure that.
Absolutely not.
Feasible, no.
No.
Okay. And as such, the possibility of access by that way rather than through Tisdale Drive, regardless of what you want, is that a feasible possibility, an engineering possibility?
Because of wetlands, no, it's not.
Okay. Well,
so one of the other residents here, I thought, had a very good idea. I mean, is there a possibility to put some sort of bridge? What is preventing some sort of access to go from what you're proposing on Tisdale, with 81 and 85 Tisdale, from accessing your already existing apartment complex?
I think at this point, Janice, that would be, the developer knows this concern. I'd rather not get this into a cross-examination of the developer right now. But that is something certainly for them to think about.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other citizens who would like to speak? And again, I emphasize, we've got a long way to go. There are going to be other hearings. We've got to have at least one site visit. We've got to get a consultant on board, which hopefully will be within a couple of weeks. But we've got enough right now to digest, especially the new memoranda coming in from the attorney for the Tisdale residents and their trust. Whoops, I see Joyce. Okay, and that is last name and address again, please. Chris, you can admit Joyce.
Working
But
on it.
I'd like to know who Joyce
I do.
last.
Can you hear
And
me?
yes, last name and address, please.
62 Tisdale. I
And
am
last name is,
Levine, sorry.
okay.
Sorry, my husband spoke a couple of people before me.
Okay.
Hopefully. Gosh, I just lost my train of thought. Okay, I'm gonna, what was it? All right, sorry about this. I'm going to bow out until getting old is hard. I just completely forgot. Okay, talk to you later.
You will have plenty of
Oh,
opportunity.
I remember now, sorry. Can you
Oh,
just give us a sense of timeline, about when, sort of when these votes are and how that's all going to work out?
well, our deadline under the law is 180 days from today, and I think that is May 3rd, I believe. Let me just see here. But yeah, it's definitely in May. So it'll be 180 days. And it's not uncommon with developer approval, which often happens, for these to extend beyond 180 days. I can tell you one thing: there's not going to be a decision made within the next month or two. That's simply not going to happen. So my intention, and I know my board, our board will agree. We want to have other sessions of this hearing. We want site walks. We're going to need input from a consultant, our consultant, the developer's consultant, so that we come to a reasoned decision. So it's not going to happen overnight, and it chances are it could get very close to that 6 months that we have under the statute. I just don't know at this point.
Thank
okay.
you. Sorry about. Thanks.
Oh, that's fine. Hey, let me let Deborah Friedman speak. And then I think what I'd like to do after Deborah, let's stop this, because the board has some other business not related to this. It needs to proceed with. And, and you're welcome to listen to that if you like. But I'd like in deference to everyone's time to just have this portion of our session today to conclude. We've got to read your attorney's memorandum. Okay, so is there anyone else looking to speak? If
Yes,
not,
is it my turn?
and you are?
Deborah. Hi, Deborah Friedman.
Deborah,
I'm 52
okay.
Tisdale. Hi.
Oh, there you are. Okay, Deborah, go ahead. It is your turn.
Thank you so much for the thoughtfulness that you're taking to this important matter. Just wanted to say thank you for that. But just in terms of, the very important things, the safety on the street, the water, all of these things, right? I'm also just thinking about the light, which we mentioned, but also the noise and the environmental factor of eliminating possibly, 5 acres of trees, which we know how important those are right now. So there's just, in addition to everything else, just thinking about the light, the noise, the water, all of those environmental factors, and of course, the safety of everybody. So thank you.
You're welcome. And everyone on the board thanks you. And everyone here, this has been very, very helpful. And first, we've got a lot of information, and we all really appreciate the reasoned tone that everyone has in this process, because these are really, really important, for homeowners. It's important for the town, and the developer, it's important for the developer too. We've got to afford them the same rights as everyone else. If we don't do that, there's a state agency that would certainly see that we do that and take away a lot of our ability to work with the developer if we decide that may make sense. It is just important that everyone be just like tonight. Everyone's been wonderful. Thank you. I think at this point, I'd like our board that just to start discussing other things that we have, and there's not an awful lot, and then we could entertain a motion to adjourn. Board members, let me see, I think the next thing I had on the agenda was to review minutes that I've not drafted yet for our October 28th meeting. What we have done since, we have issued, and you've all got copies of this at this point, the issuance of a special permit to the owners of 25 Dover Road to have limited short-term rentals of their properties. For the benefit of anyone else still here. Is there anyone else here who's not part of the Tisdale group?
Did you want me to hang around, George? I'm happy to. Or...
No, I think here enough is enough. You go home and thank
Okay.
you, and yeah, thank you, especially with your dad and everything. Thank you so much, and we'll compare notes. Okay,
Sounds good. Thanks.
You
Good to see you.
bet. Thank you. You've been a great help to us.
Guys,
Paul,
I'm going to sign off as well, and I'd just like to say thank you for listening to us also.
You bet, Paul. Thank you. Yeah, and yeah, address those things and get us as much as you can, and reasoned prose, okay, so that we maybe can address some of these concerns.
Thank you all.
You bet. Okay. So anyway, we've again we've issued that special permit. That there's still the 20-day appeal period, and thanks all of you for looking at that. That was good. We've got a hearing coming up, or a meeting really, coming up November 21. It's just a reminder, and we'll at that point, hopefully we come to a resolution on Claybrook, that application. We don't need to discuss that now, I think. But ideally we do that, and then we'll have time to issue a written decision one way or the other on that Claybrook application. As far as the minutes, I've really I kind of know how I'd like these to work, and I also, which might be less of a transcript and more just getting into the basic things that we're doing and decisions we make. We don't need to have a transcript, and poor Felicia, especially this time of year, but she is just overburdened. She does owe us, there are a couple of meetings in May. I went over I'm getting familiar with this stuff now, but the website, there are a couple of meetings in May, I think that we have no minutes for, and she hasn't done any rough draft of those yet. She was hoping to get to them by way of looking at YouTube, but then we're now illegal under YouTube community standards, so she can't even get something to listen to. I don't really know too much about what went on except to look at the agenda for those meetings, but I think they're under the law, technically, we've got 3 meetings after a meeting to adopt minutes, but no, I don't think anyone's going to go to minutes jail in circumstances like this. So, but we'll get that, and then those will be minutes for you to approve because I wasn't at them, and I'll get something for the 28th, and ideally keep things up to date. For meetings like tonight, I really don't want to get into a thing where this person said this and then this person said that and all of that stuff. I mean, we got citizen comments. The stuff that we need to look at is what's in writing that's submitted to us. And literally, this new thing from the law firm just came in. I mean, the Arico firm is an excellent firm for real estate. I've actually been on the opposite side with one of their cases, and I always thought I don't want to be on the opposite side of another one of their cases. This is all they do. They are very good at this, and so that's again all the reason. Let's review what they have sent. One of the neighbors did send something that's on the website, but it was more or less, why are we proceeding since the town had all those objections already? And that was one of the reasons I went a little bit long in explaining that, yeah, the state has this process, and the state issued a letter after reading and analyzing what the state had sent.
George, I don't think I've seen that letter from the Condos Association's attorney. Can you circulate that?
Oh yeah, no, literally, that just came in like at 5:30.
But also the citizen comments. I don't see those on the.
Oh, for the town comments. Oh yeah, that's actually that's on the.
No, I saw that. Sorry, I thought you mentioned some citizen comments as well.
And it's a very effective letter.
I saw that one. That one was on there.
Yeah.
I thought you had mentioned that there were some citizen comments that had also been submitted.
That all I saw just before signing on to the meeting, it looked like one of the neighbors who spoke tonight was wanting to know why we're even doing this. But I just didn't get a chance to read it.
No worries.
I figured I had to shave, so that took up the time.
So George, I have a question about the 62 Claybrook Road. So they're going to come back on the 21st of November and show us a little bit of a different plan, we hope.
Yeah.
Smaller and moved over, so it's not so close to the neighbor with the big impact. Are we going to have maybe a site visit after that? Where they actually stake it in the ground and show you where it's going to be.
I think that is a very wereasonable request, and with the extension that we negotiated, we're not now dealing with a deadline based on when they filed variance. The deadline is based after the hearing concludes. So yeah, that is certainly something. Let's see what they present. And
I have one more comment. I believe, and I might not be positively right about this, but I believe that the Tisdale condominiums that are already there have water that's supplied to them from Walpole, town of Walpole. I'm almost positive that that's where they get their water.
I know. That's interesting because the complaints about Aquarian.
Well, Aquarian does the new complex they just did. But I think in 1991, when they put that in, I'm pretty sure they get the water from Walpole. I guess we could check on that.
Yeah,
not that it makes that much difference.
Well, that's worth looking at.
George, there are some panelists. I mean, there are some attendees on the call, and Maggie has raised her hand.
Okay. Who is that? Who's raised her hand?
Maggie has raised her hand.
Okay, Maggie. Maggie.
Hi. Yep. Hi.
Hi. Are you here to speak still about Tisdale, or is this something?
I just stayed because I was curious about your meeting, but I can clarify for Laverne that all of Tisdale Drive is in fact a customer of Aquarian Water. And
really?
If you look way back in the meeting notes before I ever lived here, for sure, there was discussion of getting us onto Walpole because of the lack of volume and quality that was coming to our end of the neighborhood. And went down that road, and evidently, for some reason, long before Walpole ultimately rejected that claim and said that they would not take us on. So
Well, that, yeah,
we
that,
lean
that's,
on the
Okay, well, then I was misinformed about that, because I thought
there was
that,
definitely discussion
Walpole-
about that happening at one
Yeah.
point, because the line does run down 109 evidently,
Yeah.
but Westwood and Walpole or whoever owns that line was a hard no on all of it, because I think that that came up again when Red Robin was going in to find out if
Yes.
it could connect.
Yes.
So
They tried to get Walpole to give them water also.
yeah,
That-
so
Oh.
no, we are all the
On
unfortunate.
Aquarian, okay, that's interesting.
okay.
They just put up a ban, they just put up a
Yeah.
water ban today.
But you know, and again, Laverne, one thing I've got to ask, we closed that session. So I'd really rather not have us talk about this until we open up another session.
Okay,
Okay.
did we close the session? Guess we did, okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I think here, the only other thing we've got to consider, unless someone has an idea, would be a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Any second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, and thank you.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
talk to you later.
Thank-
Bye-bye.
Nice job, George.
Oh,
Nice
hey.
job.
Oh, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Well done.
Bye-bye.
See ya.
Good night.